Hey everyone, I'm Ram. I'm one of the core contributors at OpenLedger. OpenLedger is an AI blockchain that enables users to monetize their data, models, and agents. That's the biggest asset going forward. We want to figure out a way where blockchains can be used to bring in verifiability and we can monetize the biggest need of the hour. So what is OpenLedger? It's a blockchain that was initially developed to monetize agents, but then we understood that the underlying models, the one that powers these agents, is the most sought after in the next couple of decades, right? If you take a look at larger language models are trained on internet data, but these larger language models are not so useful as it is. They need to be specialized, they need to be customized as per our need. What we are building is essentially a blockchain that brings people together, data contributors and model developers who can leverage this data that is provided and reward everyone as part of the process. We started in this space quite a while back, almost a decade back. We started as a blockchain R&D and machine learning firm. We've worked with various players in the market. That includes Walmart, Sony, Viacom, Hedera, and many other brands as well. We provided them with blockchain solutions and machine learning solutions that help them scale their product. But what we understood is that it's better off building something for the larger masses, where you can build a protocol that can enable AI to be much more further than what it is today. It can be much more than centralized players that are playing in the market. So what are the problems we're trying to solve here, right? Today's AI, as I told you, is very generalized. Most of the models that you see today, large language models like Llama, ChatGPT's OpenAI, all of these models are trained on data that you find on internet. And these are not specialized data sets. These data sets have very generic knowledge about the world. And these models cannot be used for very specific use cases like, let's say, like banking, healthcare, travel, or many more, right? You need these models to be trained in a very specific way. You need, like how humans are, right? We do undergrad and we have general knowledge, but then we become a master in a particular subject, become an expert. Very similarly, models need to be specialized in every sector that we want to be used for. And most of these AI models today are centralized. They're built by larger players like OpenAI, Meta, and all that. And they control the entire supply chain, right from the data collection to monetizing. They control all of that, which is not fair for the players that are going to use them. They don't want these models to be centralized. They want it to be as open as possible. And because it's centralized and because it has just data that you can find on the internet, most of these models are a black box. You really don't know how it works. Human brain is a black box, right? We really don't know how the brain works. Like the medicine could differ only so much. Very similarly, AI today is a black box. You really don't know what kind of data goes in. You really don't know how these AI models understand this data. What we are essentially doing in OpenLedger is trying to solve these three major problems. And how we are doing that is to build an end-to-end platform that can provide solutions for models, solutions for attribution for people who provide data, and also a blockchain that provides verifiability. What we have is essentially a framework that enables users to collect data and build models on top of it. And these models can be accessed by AI applications and agents as well. And as these data is being collected in our platform, we want to make sure that the people who contribute this data get paid for what they deserve. That's why we brought in attribution. So what we really do here is that every time someone contributes the data, we figure out which data was useful in that model, and we attribute back to that particular data set on chain. And we built a blockchain that can be verified, that can make sure this can be verified on chain. But every time this data that is contributed, it moves on chain. Every time the data goes into a model, that is recorded on chain. And every time this model gets inferred, that's recorded on chain as well. And on that inference, we figure out which data caused that inference, which data caused that output, right? When you ask a question to ChatGPT, you get an answer. That's called inference. On that inference, it's probably ChatGPT understanding multiple data sets that it was trained on to give that particular answer. And what we do is that we showcase in our blockchain which data set caused that particular model to give you that answer, and then we attribute back to them. Now, if you're an enterprise, you can use that to figure out how your AI model works. You train it with your own data, you know how this data is understood by the model, and you can make the model auditable. If you're a machine learning developer, you're a retail person who wants to explore AI, you can use that to reward the data contributors that contributed the data for you. You can incentivize them. And how we are different from other players in the market, right? There is Kaggle, there is Hugging Face who provide these solutions, but none of them let you own your data. Once you contribute these data sets, it's out in the public. OpenLedger lets you own the data ownership is on-chain. None of them let you monetize this data. We provide a framework on which users can monetize their data. They get paid for the data that they contributed. And none of these platforms are verifiable because these are centralized platforms where you can't verify whether if you get paid or if you get recognized whether you're getting paid for the right thing. So it's not verifiable on-chain, and we provide complete verifiability. And our framework is built in a way that everything that happens on the blockchain layer is like a settlement layer, right? There is an application layer, there is a blockchain layer, and the application layer lets you collect data, train models, have these models accessible, and the blockchain layer is a settlement layer to all of that happens on the application layer. So every time a data is contributed, every time a model gets built, all of that is registered in our blockchain. Proof of attribution is a research that is initially developed by a Stanford professor named James Zhao. We worked along with him. This is one of the first few papers that use data influence methods to figure out how data is being used inside a model and how data influences an inference of a model. And we're the first guys to crack that. We wrote a paper on this. It's available on our website. You guys can check it out. Every time a model gets fine-tuned, on that fine-tuned layer, we'll be able to figure out which data set had the biggest impact. And we'll be able to showcase very clearly how these data sets impacted that model. And you can, as I told you, you can use that to make the models auditable, or you can use that to figure out who provided data and then reward them. There are three major components to a platform. The first one is data attribution. The second is called Model Factory. And third is OpenLoRa. Data attribution or data nets is a platform that lets you basically collect data on top of us. We have people who are collecting data sets around Web3. We have people who are collecting data sets around language like Korean. We have people who are collecting data sets around healthcare. We have people who are collecting data sets around sleep. We have people who are collecting data sets about credit score and stuff like that. So think of this to be a repository where people can collect unique data sets based on the models that they want to create. AI models today are becoming what websites were in the 2000s, right? Everyone wanted to build their own website. What we're essentially doing is letting you figure out what kind of data you want to collect and what type of models you want to build. And as a model developer, you can use our platform to collect this data. If you're a larger enterprise, you don't need to collect data from the public. You can start your own data net and bring in your own data set and upload that in our platform and manage your data set in our platform. Take care of the data optimization, take care of the data filtering. All of the data pipelining can be done in our platform. So once you have enough data, once you know you have enough information to train your AI, you can go ahead and use our Model Factory, which is a no-code AI development platform. It uses Clorora, where if you have data set, you can just upload to this platform, start fine-tuning your own AI model. You can choose any of these open source AI models that is out there, like Llama, Mistral, and all of these models, and then fine-tune them with the data set that you collected. And it takes few hours for you to do that, not days. And if you have basic knowledge about programming, you can use our platform and train models. Once you have trained your AI model, you can make it visible in our platform. It's called Open Models, where all of these models are open, available to the public. But if you want your models to be private, accessible within only your organization, you can keep it private as well, right? Now what you've done, if you're an organization, you've brought in your own data, trained that model with the data that you brought in, and then had it available and accessible across your organization. Or if you're a developer, have it accessible across the world. And once you have these model available, you can go ahead and start asking questions to this model. How you use ChatGPT, very similar to that, you can ask questions and get answers to that, right? If it's, let's say, an organization like Walmart, right, which uses our platform, they train this AI model with customer data. All of their last decade old of customer data, they went ahead and trained that AI model with that. They also train that model with various other informations like documentations about products, various information about what kind of custom grievances that were there. And they started using it internally to ask questions about how the customer support need. They raised testing questions and asked about that. And when they asked that question, they could use attribution to figure out which data is basically understood by the model in giving this answer. And when the answers were wrong, they could go back to that particular data set and figure out what was that particular data set, remove that and retrain again. So what really helps is that it makes these models much more open. It makes these models much more auditable. For an enterprise, if you're going to use AI, if you're going to make decisions based on AI, you want to make sure this AI is completely open. You want to make sure this AI is completely auditable. That's what OpenLedger lets you do. It attributes back to particular data that is making the models behave in a certain way. It opens up the model's behavior, which is the biggest struggle for an enterprise today. They don't want to use ChatGPT as like that because they know the data is not going to be private if they use ChatGPT. They know that they can't just simply rely on the AI if they don't know how the data is being used. What we provide is a platform where you can have a complete transparent model where you know what kind of data goes in, and when you get an answer, you know why this model gives that particular answer because you have the entire provenance on chain. And we have players who used our platform and built projects on top of us. We have Ambios, which is a deepened project, which is collecting air quality data, and they're building an AI model on top of us. We have people who are building models for Web3 programming. We have a team which is building a model for data bootstrapping, right? It's an ex-Google DeepMind team, which is using us to collect internet data and building an entire model around that. We work with Trust Wallet, we work with Walmart, we work with Siemens, Dubai Tax Authority. These are the enterprises that work and use our platform where they've taken a license of our OpenLedger, deployed within their framework, and brought in their own data set and started training their own AI models on top of us. And we've started building API layers on top of OpenLedger. OpenLedger provides you the model interface with the players who are using us to build app frameworks. The biggest output of an AI model is the utilization of that, right? Which is agents and apps. And we have a team which is building an app framework where all of the models that are being deployed on OpenLedger can be accessible using an API, either as a RAG or as the actual model itself. And using this, if you're an app developer or an agent developer, you can access the models that is available in OpenLedger, simply how you would access API using ChatGPT or Llama, very similar to that. We also have a team which is building AI, a USD just specific for AI, where rewards on our network can be paid using this USDT. Basically, what really is backed by stablecoins and fiat, and it lets you reward data contributors using a stablecoin so that micropayments can be possible as well. And we also have a team which is building tokenization of these AI models. Think of this as an access to the capital markets where AI models, which is the next form of intelligence, can be tokenized and can be accessible on the network where users can go ahead and train and trade these models as well. We've been in testnet over the last 6 months. We just went mainnet. We have close to about 1.1 million data contributors in our platform, about 180,000 plus daily active users, and we've been building across over the last 2 years. We have more than 20 different projects that are building on us, close to about 10 different enterprises who are using our platform right now. We just went mainnet. We are listed across multiple exchanges, including Binance, Bithumb, and many other top-tier exchanges. And our token is the gateway for people to get rewarded on our platform. So every time someone contributes data, they get rewarded with open tokens, and open tokens is the fee that is used to train AI models on our platform as well. We raised about $15 million. We're backed by Pollution Capital, Borderless, and many other folks. And we're glad that we are one of the first few guys to crack data attribution, and we could bring the Web3 knowledge about attribution to the traditional space. And I'm glad to have a conversation with you guys to talk about what we're building. I'll be around. If you have any questions, please do let me know. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you. Bye.